Peace.
I think we all know what needs to be done. Yo lads, Dan here, welcome back to a new video, and Oddworld Soulstorm is coming soon to the PS4 and the PS5, well, maybe not soon, but...
It's happening.
Oh my god, it looks so good, I cannot wait for it. I absolutely love the Oddworld series, which is why today, I feel like it should be appropriate to go through the entire series in one video. Yep, all 4 games. This is probably going to be my biggest project yet, and this is going to be like the Banjo-Kazooie video I did.
Except I actually enjoy the games I'm playing.
So, let's stop rambling and press on with the first game in the Oddworld series, 1997's Oddworld, Abe's Odyssey. Oddworld, Abe's Odyssey. Now, this is the game which started the entire Oddworld franchise, and oh my god, what a place to start. What's the story of this game?
I'll tell you, alright?
This game follows Abe, a former Mudokon slave hanging by his arms in a prison, retelling the story of the events of the last few days in dark, rhyming poetry. He tells us how he used to work at, or rather, was a slave to, the biggest meat processing plant in Oddworld, Rupture Farms. One night, while out waxing the floors, he overhears the big cheese of the company, Moloch the Gluckon, showing another group of Gluckons, named the Gluckon Board, how sales are going down in the business because Oddworld is running out of animals to chop up into tasty treats. But of course, being the biggie cheese of the company, he has a solution. This new meat idea is chopping up and then cannibalizing the Mudokon slaves and selling them off as Mudokon Pops! What? I mean, look at that. It's all well and good here until you see the original PS1 render for the Mudokon Pops. I mean, look at this! Bloody hell, how gruesome. Shocked by the news Abe was never meant to hear, he simply decides he needs to escape, thus starting a new and spiritual journey which involves escaping from Rupture Farms, rescuing all your Mudokon friends still slaving away, and gaining new powers in order to kill the Gluckon board members, prevent you and your friends being chopped up into meat, and then shutting down Rupture Farms once and for all. Now, I know you'll see a bunch of people saying this kind of thing on the internet, but in just under 5 minutes we've learned basically everything about the world of Oddworld. Because in just under 5 minutes we've learned about the Mudokon slaves, the Gluckon board members, how they cannibalize animals for meat, and now they've resorted to essentially killing off their slaves for profit. This is how you do it. This is how you introduce a world and just give enough information for us to go on, while still having much more to learn on the journey, if that makes sense. But what about the gameplay? The game's hard. Holy Jiminy Christmas, this game is hard. And it's just one of those games where you'll die over and over and over again until you get it right. It's not a rage game by any means of the imagination. Sometimes it's just controller-snappingly difficult. And people call Crash Bandicoot the Dark Souls of platformers. But difficult does not equal bad. I mean, think about any Souls game, or all the ones that are like that, like Sekiro, Bloodborne, all
Pretty bloody hard.
but they are still fantastic games, and Abe's Odyssey is a prime example of this in effect. Like, if you find yourself in a place where there's quite a few Mudokons and you need to try and get them out when they're not being crushed by meat grinders or killed by some of the enemies or anything. Or if you find yourself in a place which has loads of enemies in it and you need to try and find a way to sneak around. Abe can't fight. It's pretty challenging to get around. These are all difficult situations in the game. Isn't that why we love it? Wait, does this game have enemies? Yeah, it does. There are the more standard enemies, like the Sligs, who just look like if you shrunk Cthulhu down to size, gave him metal pants and a fully automatic weapon. There's the Slogs, who are extremely fast and cannot be distracted, so it's best to run away if you run into one. There are the spider-like Paramites, who are actually friendly and can be distracted by throwing meat at them. Don't let them back you into a corner or get you into a group where you can kiss your loincloths goodbye. And finally, there are the Scrabs, who will chase you on sight, but they have no idea what it is they're chasing. So use this to your advantage. Have 2 Scrabs kill each other. That's always fun. But how could Abe get past enemies if there's no way to sneak around, or the fact that he can't fight? Well, get him into a safe enough location, and he can chant to possess any Slig currently on screen. But how do you go about saving your friends? Surely you need to communicate with them. Well, you can! With GameSpeak, using some button presses, you can get the attention of other Mudokons, or even Sligs if you possess them, and make them move around with commands such as hello, follow me, and wait.
Follow you. Hello. Follow me. Okay.
With the guidance of Big Face, yes that's his name, Abe journeys into the temples of the Scrabs and Paramites to gain scars on his hands, which, when combined, gives him the ability to turn into the Shrikle, a super mega god of death, which destroys everything on screen when used. This is actually how Abe gets back into Rupture Farms, kills the Glocken board members, and shuts it all down once and for all, until he gets captured, leading to where he is now strung up in a prison. If you saved enough of Abe's friends in your quest, 50 in the original game on the PS1, 150 in the remake New and Tasty, Abe is rescued from the prison by his tribal friends and returns as a hero. We also get to see that this is what Gluckons look like under their suits. I don't care what you think, that's funny. With all this aside, Abe's Odyssey is a glorious game, and something which you can easily go back to nowadays, whether that be the one on the PS1, or, you know, more likely, the remake on basically everything, New and Tasty. It's even on mobile! But it's definitely something that I go back to and have a nice little playthrough, because it's just, it's worth it. But from one good thing to another, let's move on to the next game in the Oddworld series. 1998's Oddworld, Abe's Exodus. Exodus picks up straight after Odyssey, considering you did a perfect run and rescued every single Mudokon in that game. Abe is celebrated as a hero, but thanks to him being a bit of a bumbling twat, he gets knocked off the stage and sparked out. He then has visions of Mudokon spirits telling him that he may have shut down Rupture Farms, but there are still Mudokons out there, and some of them are being used by Gluckons to dig up bones of already dead Mudokons for some strange unknown reason. And do you think the Gluckons want the Mudokons to know what they're digging up?
Of course not!
So do you know what they did? I'll give you a couple of seconds to have a guess. No, you're wrong. They had their eyes stitched shut. Abe takes a few of his friends to the burial site turned mine to find out what's happening, but after a long trek, all the Mudokons except for Abe find and start drinking a Gluckon brew named Soulstorm because of all the trekking across the desert that they've been doing. They're obviously very thirsty, which, yeah, isn't exactly a good idea. It's a very addictive and very dangerous substance, and as Abe finds out, is made out of the bones of the dead Mudokons the Gluckons have been digging up, and as he later finds out, live Mudokon tears. This starts a vicious cycle of the Gluckons bribing the Mudokons to work, saying that they can have all the brew they want, then killing the boss so they can use their bones and tears to make more brew. It's sickening. Abe's friends, however, have become sick from drinking the brew, causing him to have to go on another quest to learn a way to cure the Soulstorm sickness, rescue the newly, recruited Mudokon slaves, yes, even the blind ones, and finally shut down the Soulstorm brewery. Yeah.
Shut down.
But naturally, because this game came out exactly 1 year, or just under 1 year after Odyssey, everything is basically exactly the same. Well, in the gameplay department at least. Everything else is much different. This game is twice as long.
The PS1 version had 2 discs.
Because it's so similar, because most of the things are the same, it really does feel like a continuation or an add-on to Abe's Legacy, which is quite good. It's quite a good thing. The only differences being is that there's new enemies, and the Mudokons actually have emotional states this time. So let's talk about those. Yep, that's right, you heard me. Mudokons have emotional states now. Angry, depressed, wired, blind, and sick. Angry and depressed Mudokons won't listen to you, so you need to go up to them and sympathize with them in a new GameSpeak command, which involves just tickling their noses, because that's how you sympathize with everyone, and they should be fine. Just don't be too aggressive with the depressed ones though, or they'll literally kill themselves. I'm not joking. Wired Mudokons, however, are mental unhappy gas, so you need to give them the old 1-2 and they'll snap out of it. Sick Mudokons physically can't do anything, so you need to know how to cure the sickness in a chant to help them, which is unlocked later on in the game. And blind Mudokons can't see, so you need to have them follow your voice to the exit, but knowing Abe, that's going to be easier said than done.
This is bad. What do I do now? What do you do? How about leading us out of here? Okay, follow me. Okay. But... Oops. I forgot he was blind.
You're just stupid. Oh yeah, and you can possess nearly everything now, including the Glockens.
Glockens!
After finding a way to cure the sickness and overloading the boiler in the brewery, Abe destroys Soulstorm Brewery, obviously getting out just in time. The Bandockens start to build a little civilization for themselves, and Abe dedicates the rest of his life to finding and saving every last Bandocken in Oddworld. And this draws Oddworld's time on the PS1 to a close, but you'd think it'd end there, wouldn't you?
No.
You couldn't be any further from the truth. They moved on to the Xbox and completely changed the Oddworld formula, making it from a 2D platformer to a 3D one. Was it any good? Let's find out. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to 2001's Oddworld Munch's Odyssey. And yes, there's a new character this time. Instead of Abe being centre stage this time, it's a Gabbit named Munch, who wants to find more of his kind because they've basically been hunted to extinction. Not by Glockens, by another top dog species called Vikers, who hunt Gabbits to sell their eggs to Glockers to make into food, or remove their lungs to replace Glocker lungs due to smoking habits. It's really one above the PS1 kill the slaves for profit plot. It's something not previously seen in Odyssey or Exodus. After being captured by the Vikers, Munch manages to use this weird zippy zappy head thing as a way to zap cages full of these little cute yet terrifying puffballs named Fuzzles to release them, who in turn set Munch free. Meanwhile, in a cave somewhere, we find Abe. Yes, he is in this game, he's just not a center character, who's been taxed by this big blob of sack named the Almighty Raisin. Once again, yes, that's his name, to find and free Munch and have him help Abe save more Madockens and the eggs of unborn ones. I mean, canonically, Madockens are descended from birds, which means, you know, naturally they'd lay eggs, which is quite a weird thought. Just imagine it for a minute. A humanoid creature laying an egg. The gameplay in this game is way different to what you're used to in this series. As I've mentioned, this is now a fully 3D platform in which you can switch between Munch and Abe for different tasks. Abe can do complex platforming but can't swim, and Munch can swim but he's pathetic at jumping. It's quite a jarring change seeing Abe running around a 3D environment, but personally I find it kind of refreshing, having a new take on the formula, you know, changing it up, keeping it fresh. Although I do much prefer the 2D aesthetic of the PS1 era, this is still pretty solid, it's just a matter of personal preference. I see why people don't like it, but I still had a pretty good time here. Not to mention you can actually get Madockers to fight people now, they're actually useful.
Kick some booty!
Abe and Munch engage in a financial battle to get their hands on the last can of Gabiar, essentially Gabbit eggs, which involves our mate Abe knackering himself chanting. In the end, all is well. The eggs are saved, the Madockens are saved, another giant structure is destroyed, in Oddworld tradition. The economy's collapsed, and a new moon appears in the sky, bearing a Gabbit paw. Munch's Odyssey really did change up the Oddworld formula. Some people think it was a good thing, other people want to forget it. I myself did really enjoy it, and if you didn't, you can suck my gabbit. Anyway, the final game that I want to talk about today is the last game in the Oddworld series before they just moved on to doing ports and remakes and such. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Oddworld Stranger's Wrath.
A first-person shooter.
This game follows a mysterious bounty hunter simply known as the Stranger, who is hunting bounties to gain enough moolah for a mysterious operation. Now, this bounty hunter is different than any other from your Red Dead Redemptions or your Star Wars bounty hunters, because he doesn't believe in weapons. Yeah, you know, live ammo, bullets, bombs, bloody cannonballs, live ammo. So what does Stranger use? Well, instead of using live ammo, Stranger quite literally uses live ammo. Stranger's weapon of choice is a wrist-strapped crossbow, which can be equipped with many different types of bugs and critters, which can be weaponized in Stranger's favor. Bugs such as bees for rapid fire, thud slugs for heavy hitters, and boom bats as bombs. Plus we don't tell Peter about this guy. They'll make a flash game about him. Well, obviously this game is a first/third-person shooter, which it's very strange to say the least, because you thought the jump from 2D to 3D was a big jump. It's very weird to say the least, but I guess you can't really blame Oddworld Inhabitants, the developers behind these games. for trying new things, because obviously they want to focus on one specific series, which it's only natural they try and change things up a little bit. And in my opinion, they bloody well nailed it on the head with this one. It was brilliant. Anyhow, later on, after a lot of bounties, Stranger learns about a tribe of amphibian things named grubs. After losing their protectors, a now extinct creature called a Steef, they've started being harassed by a demon. This leads on to a new story about Stranger going from being the hunter to being the hunted. Why? Because it turns out the Steefs aren't extinct. Because Stranger himself is a Steef. Who could have seen that one coming? The operation he needed was to remove his hind legs to make him more humanoid. Stranger takes it upon himself to help the grubs and defeat a demon, aka this bloke named Secto, who built a huge dam over the river, and so he does it. He supposedly kills Secto, but it turns out he's just,
Squilliam.
using an Elder Steef as a host body. The game ends with the grubs accepting Stranger as their new guardian Steef, while Secto just swims away ominously. After this, the Oddworld inhabitants decided to go dormant for a little while, before coming back and releasing HD remasters of Munch's Odyssey and Stranger's Wrath. And then completely remaking Abe's Odyssey from the ground up. And now completely remaking Abe's Exodus from the ground up, whilst incorporating all the ideas that were supposed to be in that game. And there you go, we're done. I'm out. Okay, see ya. Happy Hanukkah. Thank you very much. Do you know what this year needs? Crash Bandicoot. Well, I don't see how things get any better.
And the plot thickens!
Yo, alright lads, Dan here, welcome back to a brand new video, and how about those Crash Bandicoot games, huh? Yeah, there's two on the horizon. One of them is a mobile game, Crash on the Run, which looks pretty decent for a mobile game, if I'm honest. But the other one, oh boy! Yep, Crash Bandicoot 4, It's About Time. That title couldn't be any more correct. I made a DJB chat episode when this was, still a leak, and I think it's safe to say
I'm an oracle.
I am an oracle. I predicted everything that was going to happen, and bar a couple of things in that video. So go watch that if you haven't already. It's back when it was still a leak, so take everything with a grain of salt and know that I'm probably going to be 100% wrong about some things, but whatever. Let's not dawdle on that though. Over the next 3 videos, I'm going to be talking about the original Crash PS1 trilogy. I would do this a bit, closer up to Crash 4's release, as kind of like a Countdown 2 or Road 2 kind of series, but I may or may not have run out of video ideas. So we're gonna do it now, and yeah. So for the next 3 videos, we're gonna be talking about Crash 1, Crash 2, and Crash 3. Yeah, that. We're not going to talk about CTR yet. I might do that a bit closer up to the time, and I'm not going to be talking about any of the post-Naughty Dog games either. Let's stop dawdling and jump straight in, shall we? So, to start things off, let's head back to 1996 with a small company of creators known as Naughty Dog. Of course, famous at the time for such classics we all know and love today, such as Keith the Thief, Way of the Warrior. No, Math Jam? The team at Naughty Dog had an idea, a vision, if you will, of a platformer that has the linear progression of a standard 2D platformer, but the camera is behind the main character as if it was to show you the journey from their own perspective. And what codename did they decide to give their masterpiece? What name would echo through the ages?
The Sonic's Arse game.
I wish I was joking. How do you think the meeting to decide that name went? Alright lads, we need to come up with a code name for our game so we can pitch it to Sony next week. Pitch it to Sony, my ass. What was that, Chris? Oh, Sonic's arse. Perfect! But hedgehog cavities aside, let's get into the actual game, shall we? Yeah, let's go, mother wumpers! I'm sorry, I'll never say that again. The story of this game is simple. It's about a stupid shirtless Bandicoot who was created by this bloke over here, Dr. Neo Cortex, to be part of his mutant animal army. After escaping Cortex by jumping out of the castle window... Uh-oh! Cortex tries to lure him back by capturing his disturbingly curvy for a cartoon game girlfriend Torna, who just sort of stands there. She does that a lot in this game. She's very good at it. This leads to a big ol' adventure spanning the 3 Whumpa Islands with many different types of levels between them as you make your way through many perilous traps to get back to Castle Cortex, rescue Torna, even though she clearly doesn't need it as she's always there to greet you at the end of the bonus stages.
Hello!
And beat the mad scientist before he corrupts nature and takes over the world. See? Simple. But what about the gameplay for the little orange belly button? It's okay. Whilst obviously being revolutionary for the time, yeah, nowadays you can tell just how dated it is. I mean, Crash is a bit of a heavy twazzock, and it's very easy to tell. I mean, during the 2D sections, or times when you're running away from the screen, but there isn't any major platforming, it's fine, it's bearable. But as soon as platforming between 2 small, like,
Things
gets involved, or you have to run towards the camera to do a bit of backtracking because you missed a couple of boxes in a level or something. No! Your main objective throughout the stage is to get from point A to point B whilst avoiding pitfalls and killing enemies by spinning on them or jumping on them, etc, etc. But you don't just want to do that. That'd be way too easy. Don't you know what else you can do in these stages? Break every single box on your way to the exit. They don't call them Crash for nothing, matey. There are many different types of boxes you'll end up running into. There are the standard ones you'll find, nothing particularly special about them. There's these cage crates, which you can bounce on 10 times to get some Wumpa fruits. It's a little annoying, they take a while to destroy, but you can just spin into them, it's all well and good. There are these bouncy crates that spring you upwards, and there are these special crates which summon Aku Aku, a floating mask, which gives you 2 extra hit points or full invulnerability if you find 3 of them. What have I got? If you can smash all the boxes in each level, you'll get a gem at the end, and if not, the game won't half let you know. Oh yeah, great, you got to the end of the level, well done you. But you've missed 3 boxes, you're worse than Hitler! I wouldn't mind, but the PS1 release of this game, you can break all the boxes, but if you die once while doing so, you're not having it. The gem isn't yours, it just boots you back to the map after finishing the level, and you need to do it all over again without screwing up. Now, that's probably one of my biggest complaints about this game, but they did fix it in Crash 2 onwards, so I guess it's not particularly that bad. As for the different kinds of stages you'll run into, some of them include jungles, rivers, I mean just watch out for these plants otherwise you'll... huge gates, ruins, factories, and of course, the castle exterior. Looking at you, Slippery Climb!
piss off and die.
And also, in the beginning of these hog riding stages, you could tell that Crash has been away from his girlfriend for a bit too long, because judging by the eyebrow movements, he gets a pretty bad case of the horn and takes it upon himself to ride the first pig he sees.
Help me.
But what about the boss fights? I mean, this game has 6 in total, each different in their own unique ways, so, let's talk about some of them. Papu Papu is absolutely pathetic. He's the easiest boss who never changes his attack patterns and goes down too quickly. Think I'm being a bit too harsh? Here's the full fight. Why do you exist? Ripperoo, who sounds like a Victorian serial killer, is a tricky bugger. He's all about timing, with you needing to jump on these big TNT crates at just the right time, so he'll jump into the explosion. I mean, it's a decent enough fight, it's got a nice bit of challenge. Koala Kong is simple enough. You just need to dodge his rocks he throws at you, then spin back the bigger ones to kill him. You're not impressing anyone with your tiny legs, bugger off! Pinstripe, like Papu, is pretty pathetic, which is very disappointing, seeing as he has a Tommy gun! You just need to duck behind the chairs to avoid the bullets and spin him when his gun jams. Easy peasy. The fight against Dr. N. Fetus has 2 phases. One involves him throwing some floppy green sacks at you, which you need to jump on to damage him. Somehow. And the others involves him turning into the Incredible Hulk and doing a Donkey Kong Arcade Hammer impression. Now, for a final boss, Cortex is surprisingly easy. You just avoid all of his lasers and spin back the green ones. It tests all your moves pretty well. It's decent when it comes to timing, but yeah, it's just too easy, if I'm honest. You can actually skip the final boss altogether by collecting all of the gems in the levels, but it's a bit of a strenuous task, to say the least. It essentially involves perfecting every single level. They fixed this in every game moving forward, and in the Insane remake, it's all well and good, but in the original, it's so much easier to actually just do the final boss than just perfect every single level for the sake of not having to fight Cortex and getting a slightly different ending. But, I mean, either way, this game is still absolutely brilliant, and I go back to it to do a nice little playthrough to this day, even if it means going to the PS1 version of this game. But even though the Insane Trilogy version is
10 times better.
and 10 times easier, yeah, if you want a bit more of a challenge, you can go to that one. The control style is simple yet effective. Well, you literally just need to move, jump, and attack. The characters are memorable. The music is to die for. In fact, it's so great and memorable, it makes me visibly go... Yo, alright lads, Dan here. Welcome back to a brand new video, and welcome back to my celebration of Crash 4 It's About Time's reveal.
Oh yeah, and that mobile game as well, that looks pretty decent, doesn't it?
So, last time on the show, we talked about the PS1 classic, which is, well, the original Crash Bandicoot, and, you know, after that game, it gave a lot of people thinking, what if they took that original game, took everything that was good about it, made it better, took everything that was bad about it, made it better, and just completely reimagined the formula to make an even better game? Well, if luck would have it, they did! 1 year later! Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Crash Bandicoot 2, boys! So then, picture the scene. It's 1996, Crash Bandicoot has launched and is doing pretty well for itself, and everyone loves it. So naturally, the good old team at Naughty Dog just had to create a worthy sequel. They could have just done the same again and it would have been fine. But no, they did one better. They created an entirely new engine which can render more polygons and animations, essentially more everything. And with this, they were able to take everything that was good about the original game and make it all 10 times better, as just over 1 year later, after the release of Crash Bandicoot, the world was blessed with Crash Bandicoot 2, Cortex Strikes Back. But what's the story of Crash's second outing? Well, it all picks up straight after the events of Crash 1, assuming you actually fought Cortex instead of skipping him with the gem. Cortex falls off of his blimp down to the islands below, where he discovers crystals in a cave. 1 year later, we find him with his new assistant, N-Jin, aboard the new Cortex Vortex space station, trying to find a way to collect more crystals. But seeing as Crash took out all the Cortex mercenaries in Crash 1, they can't exactly get anyone to do it for them. So he devises a plan. Meanwhile, we find Crash and his sister Coco. Yes, Crash has a sister now. Why? Because Voddy gums, that's why.
Crash? Crash? Crash! My battery is fried. Make yourself useful, big brother, and bring an extra battery for me.
Get it yourself, you lazy b-
Crash gets taken into a warp room where he's told by Cortex he needs him to gather 25 crystals to help Cortex save the world. Cortex saving the world in a game subtitled Cortex Strikes Back.
Understandable, bye!
This of course leads to yet another adventure to collect all of the crystals to help Cortex contain the planet's energy and stop a series of natural disasters. Bugger off. This involves Crash travelling to many new areas such as forests, sewers, or even space! Oh yeah, and there's the snowy areas as well, but we'll get to that later. Now, as this is a sequel, they've taken all the fundamentals from the first game, those being the different box types, the more linear corridor level design, the Aku Aku hit point system and invincibility, the gems, and all that jazz, and made it much more streamlined and faster paced compared to the main game, making everything a lot more fun and enjoyable, and making the first game look like a bit of a dated mess in comparison, despite the fact it only came out 1 year prior. But that's actually a pretty good thing, because they saw what was bad in the original game and improved those imperfections tenfold to make a really solid sequel. But what has been improved since the last game? Well, for starters, Crash feels a hell of a lot lighter in this game, and it feels less like you're trying to throw a brick. And each level seems more packed with stuff. The corridors are a hell of a lot wider, which means there's more stuff, you know, to fill up all of the empty spaces, which means there's more action, and there's more things to do, which is absolutely fantastic. Something else that's been changed for the better is the method of obtaining the elusive coloured gems. I would have brought them up in the last part, but there really wasn't any point. You just get them like any other gem by not dying while breaking all the boxes. But here in Coop Banda Crash 2, the sequel-dequel, you actually need to physically find them by completing objectives in the levels, like not breaking any boxes whatsoever in a level, or completing one of the levels that has a timer when you get to a certain point. There's also one where you need to physically find the gem by going through a fake wall that doesn't have any collision, finding a secret portal in a completely different level, or by climbing upstairs made of fake crates that would normally kill you. Just that little extra layer of challenge makes these gems so much more interesting than they were in the original. Crash himself also has a wider moveset in this game. Not only can he do the basics like running, jumping, and spinning, but he can also slide now, which is useful for the new slide-only enemies, which can only be killed this way. He can also high jump by crouching or sliding before a jump, and he can also belly flop, which is used to break these new metal cage crates, which can't be broken by spinning normally. I'm a big fan of this new moveset because it adds a whole new sense of speed and action to the gameplay. Do you want to know the best improvement though? Cortex is now voiced by Mr. Krabs.
Hello, I like money.
So now I think we should probably go into what is entirely new. What's been added to this game as opposed to the old one? Because if we just sat here talking about improvements, looking back at the last game,
We'd be here all week.
So what's new? Well, there's a couple of new box types, like what I mentioned earlier with the new metal cage crates, which can only be destroyed by belly flopping on them. There are also these dangerous new nitro crates, which blow up as soon as you touch them. So you need to avoid them, and then hit this green switch box at the end of the levels in order to get rid of all the nitro crates at once. Just remember to not even brush by the nitro crates, otherwise
Skip it up and down up.
There's also these new death routes, which are extra pathways in levels unlocked by not dying once on your way over to them. They're always very rewarding though, as there's always a clear gem at the end of them. Naturally though, these sections are a lot harder than doing the stage normally, especially when you have to go over a platform and greeted by a massive horde of "No crap." And don't even get me started on the f***ing Cold Hard Crash level with the f***ing ice physics making jumps through f***ing nitro crates multiple f***ing times! It's okay. I'm okay. Oh yeah, and since the events of the first game, the pig from the hog riding stage has got a restraining order against Crash, so he resorts to kidnapping and riding the nearest baby polar bear he can find because
Crash likes them young.
Why did I write that? Oh yeah, and you can also do this. Also, in the last few levels of the game, you get to pilot Crash with a jetpack through space, and it's fine. It's always felt a little bit weird to me. I need to get used to the controls every time I play these stages. They're not bad by any stretch of the imagination, it's just a bit floaty. But the levels are literally in space. What the hell am I expecting? Oh yeah, and Torna is nowhere to be found in this game. Whether that's for better or for worse is anyone's opinion. But most importantly, this game spawned the legendary Crash Dance. What? You want me to do it? Bugger off, I'm not doing it. So with all the new stuff in this game, there's obviously going to be a couple of new bosses, so shall we have a look at them? First off is Ripperoo. Wait, how the hell are you still alive? Last time, I joked about how his name sounds like a Victorian serial killer. Well, now he actually looks like one. I was joking, Naughty Dog. The fight's fairly different from the original game. He jumps around a grid, putting TNT squares in his wake. Just avoid those, then avoid the nitro squares he puts down, and then smack him one. I mean, it's simple enough. It's still better than the original one. Ah, wonderful. A pathetic boss. We can't have a Crash game without one of those. Yeah, the Komodo brothers are just too easy. You wait for one of the bros to be stunned, then you smack him into the other one. This fight is just too easy. And IGN seems to think they're called the Commando Brothers. What? Tiny Tiger. He's not tiny, nor I don't think he's a tiger. I mean, he's a pretty fun boss, all about timing your jumps. You jump between small floating platforms, whilst luring Tiny to the flashing red one so he'll fall flat on his bot. Engine's fight is pretty decent, and it's here where you get to see Crash's greatest power. A power greater than any mere mortal can possibly comprehend. Basically, he just makes a Wumpa Fruit appear out of absolutely nowhere. It's a bit weird, isn't it? But yeah, this fight involves materializing Wumpa Fruits and flinging them at Engine's mech, which slowly destroys it. And if you make an evil mech that can be destroyed by throwing fruit at it, you really need to reconsider what you make your mechs out of. After gathering all the crystals, it comes to a great surprise to us that in fact, Cortex was lying to us this entire time and wants us to collect the crystals for his own diabolical plans. What? As for the Cortex fight itself, oh my god. It's literally the worst fight in the game. It literally involves you chasing Cortex with a jetpack and spinning him when you get in too close. He doesn't even try to hit you back. For a game titled Cortex Strikes Back, you don't exactly do a lot of striking back, do you hammer-headed twazzock? The fight lasts about 2 minutes, Cortex is defeated, you collect all the box gems, and then with the help of Fetus Man, you use a laser to blow up the Cortex Vortex, and that's how it ends. So, in conclusion, I can probably say that Crash 2 is so much better than the original. In every single way, it improves on it massively. In fact, you don't even really need to play the first one to enjoy the second one as much as, well, anyone else does. And I could see why people think that Crash 2 is the best Crash game, but for me, that title will always be Crash 3. But we'll cover that next time. What? Oh my god. Okay, fine, I'll do the bloody Crash dance. Jesus, wet. Yo lads, Dan here, welcome back to my celebration of Crash Bandicoot 4, It's About Time's reveal, where we talk about the original Crash Bandicoot PS1 trilogy. What else? And today we have reached the final game in the trilogy, the final stretch of our journey, if you will. We are going to be talking about Crash Bandicoot 3. So we're still doing that, are we? Lovely. Anyway, Crash Bandicoot 3 Warped, the third and final main game in the PS1 trilogy, disregarding the two spin-offs CTR and, Crash Bash. Oh god, get it away from me! This game was released 1 year and 1 month after the last game, Coot Bandicoot Crash 2, the sequel-dequel, keeping up the 13-month trend the other games had. I always found the almost annual release schedule for this pretty mad. One of my favourite trilogies of all time was completed in just over 3 years. It's great. Now, I should probably mention that this is the first video game I ever played, so I am deeply nostalgic for it, but it doesn't matter. Let's just get into the game, shall we? The story of this game picks up straight after the events of Coot Bandicoot Crash 2, the sequel-dequel, assuming you got full 100% completion and got our mate Fetus Man to shoot Cortex out of orbit. This makes the debris of the space station crash land into a temple, which releases Aku Aku's evil brother, Uka Uka, who, as it turns out, has been the one giving Cortex his orders from his prison since the beginning. Naturally, since Cortex is, well, a bit of a pillock and obviously hasn't taken over the world yet, Uka Uka isn't exactly a very happy chappy with him, and I don't know, just something about seeing Cortex on his knees begging for forgiveness, it's brilliant. Uka Uka decides to forgive Cortex seeing as he released him, and summons the Master of Time, Entropy, to use his Time Twister machine to collect crystals from different eras of time. After hearing of Uka Uka's freeing, Aku Aku enlists the help of Crash and Coco to use the very same Time Twister machine, travel through time, collect all the crystals for the bad guys, and taking down Cortex and Uka Uka once and for all. Now, something I've always found really cool about this game is that they decided to give Aku Aku the hit point system, the means of protection, which just so happens to be a sentient plank of wood, a fully fleshed out character, complete with proper voice acting, which isn't just...
What have I got?
Rest in peace, Mel Winkler. You'll always be the best Aku Aku in my books. When it comes to the gameplay itself, it's basically Crash 2 again. It has the same moveset except for a couple of minor tweaks like adjusted mid-air control, making certain jumps a lot easier to pull off, and the belly flop move has a quicker wind-up time and a larger area of effect, making it a lot more satisfying to pull off. But if you're looking for any major improvements in the gameplay, the only particular noticeable one in my opinion is the fact that bouncy cage crates now only take 5 jumps to destroy and not 10, which honest to god I'm surprised they didn't do earlier. 5 bounces and 2 Wumpas per bounce just feels right, especially seeing as throughout the events of the first 2 games you've bounced off enough of these crates you're practically raw. But I mean, ordinarily about now I would go into what's been improved since the last game. I did this last time after all, but nothing's particularly been improved apart from those 3 little quality of life improvements I talked about. Naughty Dog knew what stuck. They knew what wasn't broken, so they didn't fix it. I wish I could say the same about another group of developers who worked on a Crash game. But travesties aside, let's get to the proper meat of this, shall we? What's new? Well, a fairly notable thing that's been added to the new game is, well, more vehicles. There were a few vehicles in the last game. There was the jetpack, the baby polar bear, and something I didn't bring up last time, the jet board, which was, whew, it's pretty good, wasn't it? But this opened the floodgates, if you will, to more vehicles to be added in Crash 3, and most of them are absolutely fantastic. So, let's have a look at those. The most notable vehicle in this game, though, is Crash driving a motorbike. Wait, no, sorry. Motorcycle in the 1950s. These levels take the form of a race where you need to finish in first place to earn the crystal, whilst of course it's smashing all the boxes on your way to the finish if you want the gem as well. I know that a lot of people don't really like these levels very much because of the speed to turning ratio being well off, but remember, these races, they're not Mario Kart, they're not CTR, so if you treat them as their own things, you'll learn to enjoy them, except for the Area 51 level.
That one can go get fucked.
And also there are these plane levels in World War I where you need to shoot down a small set of blimps, or, well, larger planes, and boxes strapped to balloons, whilst, of course, avoiding being shot down yourself. They needed to downscale Crash's model whilst piloting the plane, so now he looks like a bear trap wearing aviators, I guess. But I think these levels are a lot of fun. I'm even a fan of the secret plane level, Rings of Power, which is a race. I thought that one was brilliant. As for the other new stage types, this game introduces side-scrolling swimming stages, and I see these levels getting a lot of hate, but you know what? I actually think they're a lot of fun. They offer a new layer of challenge and are a pretty decent change of pace. They even have some new exclusive enemies like pufferfish, sharks, and eels. It really is great stuff. Now, in a first time for the series, this game actually allows you to play as Coco in her own respective stages. There are no platforming stages with her. Yet. So this time it's Coco's turn to take the reins and ride a tiger over the Great Wall of China while it's under construction. Personally, I think these levels are on par with the Crash 1 hog riding stages when it comes to level design at least, and not because of suspicious eyebrow movements, because you're running over a very narrow space with plenty of obstacles everywhere. Coco's also been left in charge of these new jet ski levels through pirate-infested seas, and these, not gonna lie, they're pretty damn fun. Zipping across water with tight and responsive controls, which generally feels like you're skimming across the surface of the water, jumping over ramps, diving, it's great. And yes, Crash now does the Crash dance at will, because it's amazing you can't have too many people doing the Crash dance at once. Oh yeah, and Crash has a yo-yo now, because it's the 90s, isn't it? Yo, I mean, so, if Crash could do it, so can I. I've got a yo-yo here, I don't know where it came from, I just found it because I'm magic and YouTube, so yeah, let's give it a try. Become a yo-yo connoisseur, if you will. So let's give it a go, shall we? Oh. It's moving back. Now what?
How do I make it go back up?
Yeah, I did it. When it comes to the gameplay, however, every time you beat a boss in this game in a way that kind of reminds me of Mega Man, Crash can attain a few new powers and abilities to add a new layer of challenge to the gameplay or to make stages easier. These abilities include the Super Belly Flop, which has a much larger area of effect, the Double Jump, hazard to guess what that one does, there's the Death Tornado Spin, which makes you spin faster, for longer, there's the Fruit Bazooka, which lets you fire Wumpa Fruit at boxes and enemies. It was a great idea on paper, but it only has a couple of uses and it's very situational, so I never really found myself using it very much. And finally, for beating the final boss, you can get your hands on the Crash Dash, a sprint button, basically, allowing you to increase your movement speed. I mean, it seems useless, doesn't it? But if you revisit an older stage you've already completed, and you could see a strange clock. The Crash Dash is supposed to be used with the brand new time trials, and with them comes a brand new collectible needed for full completion, the time trial relics. They come in 3 different types. Sapphire, which is basically well done. You tried. Get good. Gold relics, which are a bit harder to get than Sapphire, but they are actually required to beat the game and get the secret final gem. And finally, there are the platinum relics. These are the big boys. These are the ones you want. You don't even really get anything special for getting all the platinums and essentially perfecting every level in the game. You just get the sudden realization that you just spent hours and hours of your life trying to get the best times in levels of a 20-year-old game, when you could just do anything else, play any other game. Spend time with your family, but no. You spent days and days upon end losing your sanity as you perfect every jump, every spin, every Aku Aku sacrifice to fulfill your own selfish desires. Or you can just get the bragging rights. Now, of course, it's a new Crash game. There's obviously going to be some new bosses, and, well, would you know it? There's no pathetic ones this time. That's a first, isn't it? The first boss is actually up against Tiny Tiger once again. In a coliseum. You need to avoid his onslaught of lions. Why he doesn't use tigers is beyond me. Oh yeah, and you can just stand in this corner to make it all insultingly easy. It's great. Then avoid his jumping attacks, and then smack him one. That's really all you need to do. It's certainly better than his previous fight, seeing as you actually get to hit him this time. Next up is easily my personal favourite.
Good day, mates. Dingo Dial's the name.
Oh my god, this guy is fantastic. You need to avoid his flamethrower attacks, which actually destroys the crystal shield he has, and you need to make enough for him to get into the shield to land a hit, but you also need to time it right so you can get out of the shield before he blows up. This is a fantastic boss, and I love it. The next boss is none other than Entropy himself.
Now you're on my time, you little scum!
And yeah, just like the last two, the fight's pretty decent. You need to avoid and jump over his constantly speeding up attacks, then head over the platforms he spawns and take your shot. It's simple enough, it really is great stuff. The fight against the returning engine is okay. Unlike all the other fights, this time you control over Coco in a spaceship on the moon in a kind of a Star Fox-esque ship battle. I know that people call this fight the best one in the game, but I think it's okay. It does have multiple phases and can be difficult to high hell if you don't grasp it straight away. It's not my personal favourite, but I can see why people enjoy it. And the final boss is against, who else, but the tyrannical Ned Cortex. This is easily the best Cortex fight in the entire trilogy. Not that it exactly had much competition. May I remind you of Crash 2's final battle. But all in all, it's pretty cool. It's a two-way fight between Aku Aku and Uka Uka, and Crash and Cortex, all happening at the same time. And because Aku Aku is, well, a little bit occupied at this particular moment, if you get hit once, that's it. You're dead. Try again. Avoid the mines, smack Cortex into the space glory hole 3 times, and well done. You've won.
Defeated again? This is not fair. Maybe I should retire to a nice big beach with a nice big drink and a woman with nice big bags of ice for my head.
Now, from the way I've talked about this game, it's pretty obvious to see this is easily my favourite game in the entire trilogy. I know that people think that Coop Band of Crash 2, the sequel-dequel, is the best one in the trilogy, but nah. Personally, I'll always prefer this one. So, instead of sitting here fanboying about it for another couple of minutes, how about I just sum up the trilogy? It's pretty obvious to see why people think that they are PlayStation classics. PlayStation royalty, if you will. I mean, Crash wasn't considered the PlayStation mascot for no reason, you know. Taking the fundamentals of a 2D platformer and putting them in a 3D space, it is absolutely fantastic, and something that other people have tried to do since, and have completely failed at. But alas, Naughty Dog made the original 4 games, but Universal still owned the rights to the characters, so from this point onwards, Crash would get handed over to new developers every so often, some of them making good games, but just as many making absolutely atrocious ones. But we'll cover some more of the escapades of the meddling marsupial sometime in the future. But for now, I think it's about time we close the book on the original trilogy of
Crash Bandicoot!
Huh? But to close things off, I think we could just round everything up by saying That's the original Crash Bandicoot trilogy on the PS1, and even the Insane Trilogy remakes, they are pretty insane. Ha! What? Okay. It's been a long time coming. I finally get to do this. I finally get to put you away for a long, long time. Or at least till next time I get to pick you up and play you. See you later, Crash 3. Alright, so I'm going to be making more of these kinds of videos. Which game should I talk about? Yoshi's Island DS, otherwise known as Yoshi's Island 2. Yeah, I can make a video on this and compare it to the original. Perfect! Yeah, I know. I can start with this, and this will start a whole new era for my channel. A whole new chapter is opening, and it all starts with this. Oh, bugger me. Oh, well, I may as well just play Wario then. It's not like I can never do anything I actually want to do here. My God!
Why, mate?
What?
What are you yelling about?
Wario Master of Disguise on the DS!
Dear God.
You're all lads, Dan here, welcome back. I've got a question for you all today. Do you all remember Wario Master of Disguise? Of course you don't. This game is considered a forgotten DS game, and hell, I completely forgot about this game until I was searching through my shelves a couple of days ago, came across it and thought, whatever, let's make a video on it. I'm doing more of these kinds of videos now, I may as well. So, it's been a while since I played this game, I don't really remember anything about it, so let's give it a go, shall we?
Can't wait!
Okay, here we are, on the title screen, and oh god, the music. That's probably the most stock music I've ever heard in a work of fiction. No, we haven't even started the game yet. Let's just make a save file. Hopefully things will turn out good. Okay, so, what's my name? Oh, I've got an idea for this. There we go. That'll do. Perfect. So, the game begins with Wario sitting on the sofa, watching TV, and, minding his own business. Until he finds a new show called the Silver Zeppelin. Yeah, that'll do. The show is about a thief named Count Cannoli who, when equipped with his wand, can turn into the notorious thief, the Silver Zephyr. I think that's it. Jealous of what's on the TV, Wario dashes into another room and emerges soon after with his new invention, the Telmet. The teleportation helmet. Did you get it?
Do you get?
He uses the Telmet to travel into the world of the TV show, steal Cannoli's wand good style, which has a face that belongs on a can of Pringles, and steal all the treasure in that world as his new thief alter ego, the Purple Wind. Silent, but deadly. Kiss my ass. But yeah, that's really all this game goes by until later on when there's this thing called the Wish Stone which gets involved, and the rest of the game would revolve around collecting the remaining pieces of this stone so Wario can take every bit of treasure in this world for himself. But I know what you're thinking. You don't seem so sure about that, do you? Well,
You're not wrong.
this game is so horrendously boring, so horrifically drab. I couldn't bring myself to finish it. In fact, I could only stomach about an hour and a half of this game before just giving up. I know, that's really early in the game, so really realistically I don't have a right to make this video because I didn't get very far in. Whatever. This game is just awful. So I just thought that today I would just go into my first hour and a half's worth of experiences. I know this video is probably not going to be as long as my previous videos I've done, but look at this. Doesn't deserve it. Why would it? Alright, let's go. Alright, so the main gameplay itself takes the form of a Metroidvania, with each stage sporting a more open-ended area to explore, with many rooms to find and puzzles to solve in each room. Surely the puzzles, as in, well, many Metroidvanias, they've got to be the spotlight of the game, right? Surely they sport a whole new layer of challenge and intimacy needed to progress. Right? Right? No. These are some of the laziest, most generically put together Flash game puzzles I've ever played. Oh, they're absolutely god-awful. You can get them by attempting to open up these chests you find in the levels. The puzzles sort of act as a lock, if you will, which, credit where credit's due, is quite an original idea. Well done, Mr. Game. I applaud you. Well done. You actually had an original idea, Mr. Game. Congratulations. But it doesn't stop most of the puzzles from being a load of bollocks, though! Slide puzzles, tracing a line, following numbers, basic colouring. These are just some of the awful puzzles you'll be put up against, and they never get any better. They never get any more challenging in the time I spent playing anyway. Oh yeah, and you've probably noticed by now from these clips that I'm showing, all the puzzles in this game are touch controlled. So, yeah, after a while, I just chose to avoid all the optional chests downright because of how mindlessly boring they are. But, however, some of them are actually required to progress through the game and unlock main story elements, which brings me on to my next point. Yep, you've seen the subtitle for this game, Master of Disguise, which means that, well, Wario gets a few new disguises to take advantage of. And you find these in each of the mandatory chests, apart from a few where you just get a couple of quest items or whatever. But these disguises, they're just okay. Wario's disguises sort of act like power-ups, but instead of collecting an item to activate them like in any other game in the Mario mythos, let's just call it, you can activate them on the fly whenever you need them. How? With touch controls! Yeah! Because this is an early DS game, they needed to cram as many touch controls in as humanly possible. In my time playing, I only unlocked a few. There was the standard thief outfit, which lets you jump high and use Wario's trademark charge attack, but don't use it, just don't. You may as well just jump on the enemies instead and enjoy the satisfying slap noise they make. There's the Cosmic Suit, which is only useful for the fact that it has a rapid-fire laser, making most enemies bloody pathetic. The Artist Suit can create blocks to weigh down switches and make more platforms. Genius Wario lets you see invisible platforms and blocks. And Sparky Wario looks like well, that, and lets you see better in dark areas. And Captain Wario gives you a boat, which looks like if Fred Flintstone had a road traffic accident. I mean, look at that. Well, yabba dabba die in a hole! I know that there are a few more you can unlock as the game progresses, like a fire-breathing suit, which just looks like a Yoshi on crack, and this one, which essentially turns him into evil Homer. I am evil Wario. I am evil Wario. As I said, I physically couldn't bring myself to finish this game, so I don't care. But if I want to compare it to other games of a similar genre, does it have the exciting, interconnected, explorative nature of Metroid? No. Does it have the fun to use weapons and equipment which, when upgraded, you physically feel stronger like in Castlevania? No. Even comparing it to other Metroidvanias, does this game have memorable music and unforgettable art style like games such as Ori or Hollow Knight? No. Does it have the bouncy and fun gameplay, witty writing and difficulty of the Shantae series? No! You get the idea. So in conclusion, just to sum everything up, I could say that Master of Disguise, it's a forgotten game for a reason. This game is absolutely atrocious. I know this game has its fans, but how? This is probably the most boring and fundamentally flawed games in the entire Wario series. And I know that they probably tried their best to remind you that this is not a Wario Land game. I could see why.
Because Wario Land games are actually fun!
This is essentially a glorified, stylus touchscreen showcase, disguised as a minigame collection, disguised as a Metroidvania. With forgettable plot, forgettable characters, forgettable music, forgettable environments, and as such, I don't think I'll ever do so much as touch this game ever again. I don't know, Plant, do you like it?
No.
That's what I thought. So, Bubsy, Bobcat. You know you should have died back in the 90s, right? You and your mediocre line of games lead to probably one of the worst 3D platformers ever made. I'm surprised everyone just decided to bring you back. Not once, but twice. Why would anybody in their right mind play these bloody games? They're probably awful. I mean, it's you after all. What exactly are you expecting to—
Turn around, you insolent swine.
Oh, wait a minute, Bandanna Guy.
Yeah, mate. Hey, oi, mate.
Well, at least it's not Bubsy. Your lads, Dan here, welcome back to a brand new video, and yes, we're back! After a couple of weeks of a bit of a mental health hiatus, we're back! Yeah, I'm back! I'm alive! I'm kicking! I'm
Doing your nan!
And we're back today to talk about Gex on the PS1, the original Gex on the PS1, might I add. People just seem to skip this game and head straight into the sequel, Enter the Gecko, or Into the Gecko, it's one of the two. Why do people skip this game? I have no idea, but that's something that we hope to find out today, because we're making a video. Here we go. So then, it's 1994, and Crystal Dynamics, a gaming company known previously for games, I suppose, are hopping on the platforming mascot bandwagon because screw it, everyone was doing it, even I was doing it. Look at this beast over here, he's my platforming mascot here to grace the world. I call him Jeff the Policeman. But their company's mascot they came up with was a mouthy green gecko named Gex that was addicted to television, who started 3 separate games, starting off with 1994's, well, hazard a guess. The game really doesn't have that much of a story in general. I mean, it all just starts with Gex telling us about his day up to this point, leading to when he sits down to, and I quote, watch some serious tube. It was the 90s. He then unknowingly swallows a special surveillance tracking bug, which, as it turns out, belongs to this lovely chap over here, named Rez, who, for whatever reason, has it out for Gex. Why? It's never explained. So with the press of a button, Gex is then dragged into the world inside his TV, called the Media Dimension, leading to a whole new quest to travel to many different areas based on TV genres, find a bunch of TV remotes, and defeat Rez, and find his way home. Now, something that you can realise in 5 seconds of gameplay is that, well, our mate Gex, he has a bit of a mouth on him, and he never, ever shuts it.
Go into the light.
Never knock me down.
Read a book. I'm invincible. Oh, that has to hurt. That's what I call getting some tail. Invincible.
The gameplay itself, however, is fine. It's okay. As well as the standard move and jump, Gex can also sprint. You can whip stuff and bounce around with his tail, climb up walls and across ceilings like some kind of demented Spider-Man, and use his stretchy tongue to things in a very Yoshi-style mechanic. The moves and controls really aren't anything new, original, or particularly anything to write home about. They're just fine. You get used to them. If not, they're just a little bit clunky on occasion.
In fact, this game's controls kind of makes me feel like I'm back in school. It's boring, it's tedious, and it makes me want to die.
Hey, speaking of consumption, Gex can eat a few different bugs which give him special power-ups and health. There are centipedes which give Gex super speed to almost unplayable levels. There are grasshoppers which make you jump higher, and fireflies that make you shoot out different elemental attacks. I mean, okay, it's less shoot and more spit. And just a bunch of other bugs which just give you health back and various other health bonuses. Even for a game of its time, these power-ups seem very generic and very unuseful to say the least. And you can literally just avoid most of them if you want to. They don't really do anything. I only felt like I particularly needed to use them once or twice, but then after that I just sort of forgot they were there. Now, of course, Gex has been teleported into the world inside his TV, so of course, this game is filled with references to popular TV and movie genres, and the bosses that you put up against, they fit the genres, for the most part. For example, you fight a creepy ghost girl in a graveyard which uses skulls to attack you, a brain-dead superhero you need to drop anvils on in a world made entirely out of cartoons, a dragon thing made of balls, don't ask, that you need to race to the top of a jungle temple.
What kind of creature is that, Spock?
You know what, Gex? I have no idea. And a rocket-propelled turtle with exploding tails in Asia? What? And finally, at the end of your journey, you fight Rez in probably the most boring final boss I've ever played. Climb a wall, avoid lasers, jump to the next wall, rinse and repeat. It takes way too long, and if I hear the f***ing Rez laugh one more goddamn time, I'm gonna strangle a cat. But surely, after that utter slog of a final boss, surely the ending sums up everything, maybe even tells us who the hell Rez is. Well, after beating Rez, straight away Gex is thrown out of his TV, he switches the channel as if nothing happened. Credits. What? I do not get it. We don't get any form of information about the world, we don't get told exactly who Rez is, and why the hell he has it up for Gex in the first place. Hell, it probably gets explained in one of the sequels. But even then, for what little story this game has, to not explain to us who the main villain is, and why he wants to kill the hero, I don't know about you, but that's just terrible writing. We get nothing. And that's basically what this game is. A big old load of fat, useless nothing. And I doubt I'll ever go back to it ever again. But yeah, that's Gex on the PS1. And this game is just meh. The controls are clunky, mediocre at best. The power-ups, you don't even really need to use the power-ups. We don't even know who the main villain is and why he wants to kill Gex in the first place. We don't really have any reasons why he's in the world of the TV. We don't get anything. And that's what I hate about this game. And I could tell why people skip this one. It's not good. I wonder what I'll do today. I know, I'll watch TV.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the Feel Good Podcast. I am joined with my mate Jerry. Hello Jerry, what have you been up to?
I was having a wank the other night.
Oh.
Good evening everyone, welcome to DJB News. Tonight's top story, it's 2020, we're all gonna die! Oh my god. This is why I don't pay the TV license.
Yes.
Oi, mate!
You live here. What are you doing?
Yeah, I know that, smart ass. I've got something for you.
What are you, the postman or something?
Oh, well, actually, No.
Bandanna Guy was the postman.
Nowhere, just don't check the wheelie bins. Just don't do that.
Alright. Anyway, you said you had something for me?
Alright, mate, I'm gonna just go and, take the bins out. I'm winking, you can't see. Whatever, alright, see you later, mate.
You know what? I'm not even going to ask. See ya. Okay. Alright, what you got for me? Let's see.
1996 brought us Crash Bandicoot, an obscure little 3D platformer about a marsupial with jeans and a belly button that resembles a black hole. On a quest to stop an evil hammer man and his assistant, whose name sounds like the average Fortnite player, Embryo, from corrupting nature with their group of mutant animals. As buggy and dated as it seems today, I love this little game, it's pretty good. Then, a year later, the world was blessed with the legend that is Coot Bandicrash 2, the sequel-dequel. This game was better than the original in every single way. I mean, the gameplay, the levels, the secrets, the vehicles, it's fantastic. And then, yet another year later, we got, in my opinion, the best one in the trilogy, Crash Bandicoot 4. These three games and the spin-off Crash Team Racing are considered PlayStation royalty, classics, if you will. And CTR was the only PS1 spin-off ever made. Yep. There weren't anymore. But after CTR, the original developers, our old mates over at Naughty Dog, lost the rights to Crash to Universal, who would then just pass the rights to make the games to anyone who wanted them. And then, after the release of Crash Mind Over Mutant, silence. No one heard anything out of Crash for almost 10 years. But then, lo and behold, the fine people over at Vicarious Visions, previously known for the Crash games on Game Boy Advance, came out of nowhere and completely remade the original trilogy with updated visuals, music, physics, the lot. Did I say musics? God damn it. All was well in the world for the next couple of years. We had Crash, he was back in a fantastic set of remakes. We got a remake of CTR as well. Everything was fine for the next few years. And then this happened, and that's what we're talking about today. My god, this is probably the longest intro I've ever done. With that being said, you're right lads, down here, welcome back to a brand new video. Today, we are going to be talking about Crash Bandicoot 4, It's About Time, the long-awaited sequel to the original trilogy. And, oh, I should probably come up with like a humorous name for this one, like I did with Crash 2. No, let's think. Coot Bandicrash for Bottom Timothy? Coop Band of Crash 4, Timothy's Bottom. The game takes place sometime after the events of Crash 3. Cortex, Entropy, and Uka Uka are still trapped in the past, obviously still trying to escape back to the present. But Uka Uka ends up screaming so hard, he literally tears a hole in the multiverse. You know, as you do. Meanwhile, we find Crash asleep, as per usual, as Aku Aku delivers a speech about how he senses a great evil in the world. So they head over to Insanity Peak to check it out. Oh my god, the beginning of this game is brilliant. Oh my god! It's Sly Cooper. After reaching Insanity Peak, Crash finds a mysterious new mask named Lani Lowly, who, believe it or not, has the same voice actor as Invader Zim and Pox from Destroy All Humans, so that's pretty cool, I guess. It turns out that Invader Zim mask is one of 4 quantum masks that are in charge of keeping the multiverse intact, because of course they are, what else would they do? And now Crash and Coco need to travel through time and the multiverse to find the other 3 quantum masks, seal up the holes in the fabrics of time, defeat the bad guys, and save reality. Alright, so this game is a proper sequel to the original trilogy on the PS1, so naturally they're going to take some of the elements from those games and of course, well, try to make them better. And the gameplay which they have on display here is downright brilliant. The gameplay on display here is, note for note, exactly what you'd expect to see in the original trilogy, with, you know, the standard run and jump, the spin, and other stuff like the double jump, which you can now activate at any point of your jump instead of the peak of it now. Thank God. There's the slide and crawl, the belly flop, and the slide jump. Oh boy, the slide jump. Okay, so out of all the moves that was brought back for this game, the slide jump, to say the least, has undergone the most changes. Ordinarily, this was a way to reach the maximum height of a double jump almost immediately, alongside the momentum of the slide pushing you forward. But now, you get the height, sure, but the momentum is gone. You just sort of stop in place for a split second, which completely ruins your flow. This did lead to a lot of unnecessary deaths near the beginning of the game. It's not exactly that much of a deal breaker. They also brought back the clear gems. In previous outings, you get these gems by breaking every single box in each level. That also applies here, but
there are 6 in every level.
6 gems, alongside 6 different objectives for you to complete in every single level. From collecting enough Wumpa Fruit to fill a meter, to dying less than 3 times in a level, to a special hidden gem you need to search for. Some of them are in especially devious spots, the rest of them are so horrifically obvious, they may as well have been renamed from hidden gems to here you go mate, have some gems. I kid you not, with how difficult some of the later stages get, and how well some of the gems and boxes are hidden, some of the later stages took me between 20 and 40 minutes each to get all the gems in. I know that they probably added all these extra gems for replay value, but I guess you can call me stubborn, because I just wasn't satisfied until I had all the gems in the levels. There is something wrong with me, I swear. Speaking of gems, this game sees the return of the coloured gems from the original trilogy. The way you find these gems range from jumping on appearing and disappearing platforms in a certain order, driving a remote controlled car into a nitro crate, not breaking any boxes in a certain level, and of course the easiest one is just hidden off screen and you need to bounce on a certain set of crates to find it. You will find this one by accident. I know I did. The time travel eggs are also back. They're still as infuriating as ever. And spoiler alert, the Crash Dash isn't in this game, so there's basically no room for error in any of them. Oh yeah, and also there's a new relic. A purple dev time relic, but those can actually piss off. I'm not doing them. So everything that's been brought back from previous games is, to say the least, really bloody good. In fact, some aspects are probably the best this series has ever seen. But what has new developers over at Toys for Bob brought to the table? Well, let's have a look, shall we? Okay, let's get this one out of the way first, alright? If you go through levels flawlessly, collecting all of the gems, except for the hidden one, whilst not dying once, you can get your hands on the insanely perfect relics. The bane of my existence. Now, if you are nuts, you will go for all of these. I only managed to get a couple of them, but strangely, it makes me want to rip off my follicles with this spoon. Also, near the beginning of the game, you get the opportunity to select between retro and modern modes. Now, the only difference being retro mode has lives, modern mode does not. I guess I could say that if you are looking for a bit more of a laid-back experience where you don't need to worry about going back to the beginning of a level if you get a game over, go with modern mode. But if you're looking for something that's a bit more reminiscent to the original trilogy, go with retro mode. I played through both of the modes for this video. I don't really think either one of them is better, but it's up to you, I guess. Also, after a certain part of the game, you unlock the ability to replay any level you previously played in a brand new inverted form. Now, inverted mode is kind of this game's take on a mirror mode. Not only does it flip the levels 180 degrees, it also adds a new special theme onto it, as it were, giving the levels a whole new, fresh breath of life. Whether that be running through a special sonar world, which lights up the path every time you spin, to completely recoloring a blank canvas by spinning or breaking boxes with this special rainbow piece. It's not just aesthetic, they also offer a new set of gems to collect and a replacement to Wumpa fruits named Bumper Berries. Okay, there's also these new flashback tapes which you can find in certain levels without dying. They open up the gates back to 1996 when Crash and Coco were still undergoing training in Cortex's lab before the events of Crash 1. The tapes themselves take the form of side-scrolling levels full of boxes, nitro crates, and pitfalls. I mean, they're not too difficult if you just go from A to B, but if you go for the platinum trophies in each one by breaking all the boxes, they could be some of the hardest levels in the game. There's even some pretty interesting character development added in there as well. I mean, I'm not going to spoil it here, but I'll tell you, it's something I didn't know we needed. And also, apparently, Cortex is allergic to Wumpa fruits. So, with this being a new Crash game, they're going to introduce a new gimmick, as it were. Like in Crash 2, they introduced the crystals, they introduced the new moveset, and in Crash 3, they introduced more vehicles, the time trials, things like that. But in this game, they introduced masks. So as I've said before, this game introduces the 4 quantum masks, and most of the game revolves around collecting the remaining 3 masks as you have Lani Loli since the beginning. As you collect the masks, you're able to use their unique abilities for certain segments of certain levels. Some people will call how situational the masks are bad, but to be honest, I really like them. They don't overstay their welcome. You go into one of their sections, use them for a platforming challenge, they vanish, go back to regular platforming. It's alright. What do the masks do exactly? Well, Lani Loli allows you to flip between dimensions, making certain platforms, obstacles, and boxes appear and disappear as you flip between them. Most of the time, it's all about timing your jumps and flips as you cross dimensions to break boxes and avoid obstacles. Akano is the Dark Matter mask, and when you use him, it turns Crash or Coco into a rapid, spinning machine, which I can only describe as the Death Tornado spin from Crash 3 on steroids.
Maybe a little bit of crack.
Unlike the Death Tornado spin, the Dark Matter spin is constant. It just keeps on going and going and going and going until you stop it. Not to mention it lets you jump super far, allowing you to make gaps you normally wouldn't be able to make on your own. Kapuna Wa is the Time Mask, who, when used, allows you to slow down time briefly to slow down enemy attacks and fast-moving platforms. Also, its biggest use, it allows you to run over and bounce on nitro crates before they explode on you, which, trust me, will save your ass more than once. And finally, there is Ika, probably the least interesting because he's just a gravity mask.
Yeah, don't mind me. I don't matter. Nothing matters. So sad.
This guy lets you flip gravity to avoid obstacles, complete platforming challenges, and solve some puzzles. It's not particularly interesting. These masks in concept do seem very situational, but if I'm honest, I think they're done just right. They're fun to use, and realistically, isn't that all that matters? And finally, when it comes to new stuff, there is a bunch of new playable characters you can take advantage of for a whole new layer of challenge and, well, there's just more stages and more things to do, so let's have a look at them, shall we? The first character you'll get to play as is none other than Torna Bandicoot herself. Yep, the side character from Crash 1 who was meant to be held captive, but clearly wasn't because she was always there at the end of the bonus levels for you to say hi to at your leisure, is now fully playable. She does look a little bit different because this Torna is from another dimension. So why is she here? Well, that's simple. Her universe's Crash of Coco are dead, and she doesn't want history to repeat itself. I'm sorry, can you say that one more time? I believe I misheard you. Her universe's Crash of Coco are dead, and she doesn't want history to repeat itself. Oh, Torna's stages are all about flow. She controls exactly the same as Crash or Coco, but Torna has a grappling hook, allowing her to traverse over large gaps and attack enemies and boxes from far away, as well as a really satisfying stomp move, especially when you go through a massive clump of boxes. She can also wall jump, which I don't know why, it just feels like it won't work every time you do it, even though it does work. I don't know how to explain it, it's very strange. In another series first, you can also play as Dingodile, who, since the events of Crash 3, has hung up his trademark flamethrower and replaced it with a vacuum cleaner. And he's even opened his own diner! He's just here, enjoying the retired life, before being accidentally sucked into a rift, causing him to travel through time in a bid to find his way home. I kind of feel sorry for the guy, really. Well, that explains the 12 rating. Bloody hell, Dingodile. So Dingodile's gameplay involves running around, spinning boxes, and using his vacuum pack to suck up boxes and TNT barrels, which you can use to attack enemies or blow through locked gates. Unlike Torna, whose objective is to kind of act like a guardian angel for Crash and Coco, Dingodile is just trying to find more rifts, hopefully one of them taking him home. You feel sorry for the guy. And it's his bumbling antics which end up helping Crash on occasion, in fact. And the final playable character is none other than my mate and yours, Dr. Ned Crumpet. His levels are a lot more tactical, mostly consisting of side-scrolling levels, which throw a lot of pitfalls, enemies, and nitro crates at you. And unlike Crash, Coco, or Torna, Cortex can't double jump. Cortex has none of that. Instead, he has his ray gun, which he can use to turn enemies into solid or bouncy platforms in order to traverse long gaps or high walls. He also has this little head bash dash, I want to call it, which you can use to quickly get over any large gap if there aren't any enemies to turn into blocks nearby. All of these levels with the other characters, they're called timelines by the way, are optional. You don't need to play these to beat the game, you just kind of need to play them if you want to see the full picture, because sometimes you'll be traveling through a normal level playing as Crash and Coco, there'll be something blocking your way or you being chased by something, you'll hear something off screen, the path will open up and Crash and Coco will just look around like they're trying to avoid the TV license man. These levels kind of fill in the gaps and link everything together, and I would say they did it really well if they didn't make you replay half of the regular stage as Crash straight after the new bits. I mean, I wouldn't have minded if the levels ended right after the intersection, but no! You just proceed to play the level you most likely just played with slightly different box placements. It just feels like padding. It's not alternate level design. And it would have been fine if you didn't replay the same level straight after, but whatever. But either way, to sum everything up, I could probably say that this is the Crash sequel we've been waiting for years. This is a downright beautiful game with gorgeous graphics, challenging platforming, a ton of extra content, and 2 extra ending cutscenes, which I didn't unlock before making this video because I quite fancied getting this video out by the end of the year. And also, it has probably the most in-depth and fleshed out story in Crash history. And with that being said, I think it's about time. Hey, what month is it again? Oh. Well, I guess I should do a spooky video now. Yes, lads, it is October. Autumn, or fall, has officially settled in. And I think it's safe to say we're all in the mood for a scare that'll fill our pants. Now, I would have covered another spooky game during this month, but yeah, that came out a little bit late. When it comes to a Halloween-like video, I had quite a lot of games to choose from. Do I do a video on a classic survival horror like Silent Hill or Resident Evil, or something more modern like Slender Man or Resident Evil? But then I remembered a few months ago that I made a video about some of the games I grew up with on the PS1, one of them being an obscure hack-and-slash platformer simply called Medievil. I didn't really go into much detail about the game, or any, at all. This is why I stopped making those kinds of videos. So that's why I thought today, for a little Halloween venture, as it were, we're going to check out Medievil on the PS1 and give it the proper, full video it deserves. Oh yeah, but before we start playing, it's Halloween, isn't it? I should probably do the place up a little bit. Oh, I know, about this. Jeez. I didn't have a skeleton costume. Shut up! Alright, so, let's begin. The Kingdom of Gallowmere remembers the story of legendary hero Sir Daniel Fortescue. It all started with Zarok, the king's advisor, magician and jester, who ended up getting himself banished for dabbling in necromancy, because why not? How else would you spend your free time? Zarok soon returned with an army of the dead in an attempt to take over the kingdom, and he would have succeeded if it wasn't for the courage of one Sir Daniel Fortescue, who led an army against Zarok and managed to defeat him before dying of his own injuries. Since then, stories and legends have been written about Sir Dan and his adventures, and he's hailed as the face of all of the legendary heroes of Gallowmere. It just didn't happen though, did it? Nah, that's just what history tells us. In reality, Sir Dan has never been in a fight in his life, and in fact was just a great storyteller who lied about the adventures he's had. And during the battle against Zarok, yes, Sir Dan did lead the army into battle, but he was actually the first one to die from an arrow to the eye on the first charge. He didn't actually do anything. This brings us to now. 100 years later, Zarok has returned and raised another undead army, and seeing as the dead are rising from their graves, it's only natural that Sir Dan is awakened once again as well, leading to a quest to prove yourself to the people who actually know the truth about Dan by traveling the Kingdom of Gallowmere, defeating the hordes of the undead, fixing the locals' problems, and finally finishing the task Dan set out to do a century ago and defeating Zarok once and for all. So we start things off and we're already being slandered by these bloody gargoyles. Yeah, these guys know that Dan isn't the hero everyone in the kingdoms thinks he is, and they are bloody well sarcastic about it.
The hero of Gallowmere who fell at the first charge.
Right, listen here, Buster, I may have died on the first charge, but you quite literally don't have a leg to stand on! Yeah, you're gonna experience this a lot, from both angles actually. There's gonna be people who have heard of Sir Dan through the legends who will just, to put it in simple terms, kiss his ass. And then there'll be the people who actually knew Dan from the battle against Zarok in the Hall of Heroes, who will just banter at Dan's expense and complain about how he's the one who gets a second chance at Zarok while they're all there confined as statues. But yeah, we'll go further into their significance later. Keep your jawline on. Dan didn't listen. When it comes to the gameplay of this game, what you see is what you get. You run, you jump, you kill things. You start off with a rusty old sword and a few throwing daggers, but as you progress through the game, you'll slowly but surely get your hands on more powerful weapons like longbows, spears, hammers, and of course,
magic swords!
The levels play out pretty basically as well. You run through each level finding room keys to open up passageways to new areas. Some levels just requiring you to go from point A to point B, and some involving you needing to find specific items like in the Sleeping Village where you need to grab the landlord's bust. And a mold to create a new golden crucifix for the church to get a safe key to find a special artifact that will help you out later. And also you can find a special talisman in a different level allowing you to summon the Witch of the Forest, which gives you an optional search and rescue mission where you get shrunk down to the size of an ant and have to search a pitch black ant's nest to rescue these little fairies with stubbles and funny voices.
You have helped to free all the fairy people from the clutches of the filthy ant scum.
You know what? That goes for most of the voices in this game as well. This game really doesn't take itself seriously, and that's blatantly obvious with half the voices some of these characters have. And it's just the amount of goofiness and charm which is in each character, which probably makes this some of my favourite voice acting, not just on the PS1, but of all time. And that's not even sarcastic.
Daniel, man, you can't go into battle against an army of undead without a magic sword. I bet money to be back pushing old daisies by now. Who dares to enter my lair and wake me from my slumber?
Puzzles so fiendishly difficult, so perplexingly complex, that no man has ever solved them. Ha ha ha.
Something else that's pretty sick about this game is that if you kill a certain number of enemies in a level, a special hidden chalice will appear somewhere in the area which you need to find. Some are right next to the exits of the levels, and some of them are in hidden areas you need to find your way into some way or another. Either way, once you get your bony little mitts on the chalice, you are granted access to the Hall of Heroes after the level is completed. This place is full of Sir Dan's old comrades from the Battle of Gallowmere, all here set in stone because, you know, they actually fought in the battle and didn't die in 5 seconds, unlike some people. Every time you come here, you can talk to one of Dan's old colleagues to get your hands on life bottles, which extend your maximum health, money you can spend on supplies at a merchant gargoyle, or occasionally a brand new weapon to make your life much easier. This is, in my opinion, a perfect way to casually build up your strength, because the scale of weapons and equipment you can get ascends with how many chalices you have. You can't just go to the later stages and get them all then, you need to work your way up to that point, and I say fair play to the devs for realizing realizing this. This system makes you feel like you're constantly making your way to the top from the bottom, and I love it. Especially seeing as when you talk to the statues in the hall, they essentially look down on and mock Dan for his past, and he just has to stand there and take it. He doesn't have a lower jaw, so he can't exactly respond, but bless him, does he try?
Not that there's anything clever about shooting someone in the eye, sir.
You know what else is really cool about this game? The music. This game is probably one of my favourite soundtracks on the PS1. I mean, it's got the even mixture of it being dark, atmospheric, epic, adventurous, and maybe even a little bit creepy. And the fact that it was all synthesized. There is no orchestra involved, even though it may sound like it. All of this put together makes this probably one of my favourite PS1 soundtracks of all time. Have a listen to some of these tracks. So yeah, the music in this game is really cool, okay? Shut up. So this game is just one massive interconnected adventure, but every so often you'll run across a few bosses that'll stop you in your tracks for a while, like in most games. Ever. Well, I mean, some of them are pretty bog standard, but the few that stood out to be the most started off with a stained glass demon whose only weak point is in its heart, which pops out every time it charges up an attack. It's nice and easy considering it's at the beginning of the game, and it gets you used to using any range weapons you might have, so that's pretty cool. There's also the pumpkin serpent, which comes to life after you destroy all of its dubious, sacks in a level, after which you get to fight it as it shrivels up and dies, which, even with the PS1 graphic limitations, it still looks absolutely disgusting to this day. I mean, look at it. Ugh. And finally, during the ant cave missions, you end up fighting the ant queen, which pulses. Why does it pulses? It's disturbing. I'm frightened. Eventually, you make your way to Zarok's lair for a final 3-stage fight, starting with a group of Zarok's mightiest warriors, which you need to combat with your own mini army, where you need to use this good lightning to share your own health with them to stop them from dying as they fight Zarok's knights. It feels very strange, to say the least, considering how we were doing all the fighting ourselves at this point, and now we're just letting these guys do it for us, but needs must, I guess. After this, you fight Zarok's champion, Lord Kardok, who's easy enough if you have enough chalices to unlock the magic sword. I mean, just wait for him to leave an opening and then just go to town on him. This sword is basically criminal, it does that much damage to him. And how does our mate Zarok react to his decades-old right-hand man dying in front of him? Bugger. Well, like that, I suppose. Zarok then runs off into another room and emerges as... Wait. What in the holy mother of Jiminy crackhead is that? And he can take half of your health bar with one hit, so I think it's safe to say Zarok isn't messing around at this point. But after a long tussle, we finally defeat Zarok and escape his exploding castle. Dan then returns to his crypt, and his eye disappears into the back of his head. Why does it do that? That is demented. What the hell? And because I was a good little I got all of the chalices, allowing Dan to be accepted by his allies and gain a legit place in the Hall of Heroes, followed by some acrobatics and failed wine drinking because he doesn't have a gullet. And that is the end of Medievil. But yeah, either way, that's the game, so I'm going to go ahead and take this mask off now so you can actually understand what I'm saying. Anyway, that's better. So yeah, that was Medievil on the PS1, an absolutely fantastic hack-and-slash platformer with fantastic visuals, fantastic gameplay, fantastic music, fantastic voice acting. This game is really bloody good, in case you couldn't tell. So it's Mario's 35th anniversary. What else can I say about everyone's favourite Italian plumber that hasn't already been said? He started off as your average Joe in your arcades, and now he's one of the most iconic characters in video game history. If that's not a glow up, I don't know what is. The Big M has had a pretty successful NES and SNES career, spawning some absolutely excellent platformers, which would pave the way for how his games would play out in the future. But eventually, when the N64 came out, it was time for Mario to dream big and finally make his mark on pop culture. And I think it's safe to say they absolutely nailed it with 1996's Super Mario 64, a game which is still considered to this day to be one of the greatest video games ever made. And not just that, this year also marks the 35th anniversary of the original Super Mario Bros. Game's release on the NES. And as a means of celebration for this, well, the Big N only went and released a collection of some of Mario's greatest games, Super Mario 3D All-Stars. And I mean, I'm not going to say nobody saw it coming, because we did. Everyone saw this coming, but it's still a really cool thing nonetheless. So, with that being said, you're right lads down here, welcome back to another video, or should I say welcome to the second major marathon on this channel. Yeah, we're doing another one. But I guess because we're talking about, well, Mario games, we could call it a Mario-thon? Okay, I'll shut up. With that being said, I guess we could just stop rambling and jump straight in to the first game on this collection, the first 3D Mario game ever made. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Super Mario 64. Right then, so this is a Mario game. They're not best known for their in-depth plots, but realistically they'd never really needed them, and this game's no different. It all starts with Princess Peach sending a letter to Mario inviting him for cake. Yeah, we all know what that really means at this point, let's be honest with ourselves. But upon arriving to the castle, Mario discovers that, oh, shock, horror, she's been kidnapped. How very unexpected. What? And Bowser is using the energy of the Power Stars to travel to the worlds inside the castle's many paintings to do something? I don't know, find more Power Stars, I suppose? Yeah, that's good enough, let's go with that. So now Mario needs to travel to the worlds inside the paintings, recover all 120 Power Stars, beat Bowser, and rescue the princess for the billionth time. So the way this game works is that you explore the 5 major areas of Peach's castle, being the main hall, basement, courtyard, upper floor, and tower, and collect Power Stars in the paintings, which can be attained in many different ways, from simply going from point A to point B, red coin challenges, or even if you meet a special criteria which make the stars appear. And you progress through each objective in the trademark Mario way by running around, jumping, and using your sheer weight to cave in the skull of anything that moves. Alongside that, this is the first Mario game to introduce some series staple moves, like the long jump, backward somersault, and the dive. Not to mention this game, for whatever reason, lets you give enemies the good old left-right goodnight. Yeah, for whatever reason, Mario can actually punch things in this game, and to this day, I still don't really know how I think about it. He hasn't been able to do it in any other game since, and it's so out of place, but you can't help but love it. Oh yeah, and the wall jump is here as well. It's kind of weird though, because in order to pull it off, you need to jump the instant you touch a wall. The timing on it feels almost frame perfect, so it would take a bit of getting used to if it's your first time playing. So then, I figured the best way to talk about this game would be to go through it stage by stage. This was the first 3D Mario game after all. We have a lot of stages to go through, 15 in total, so shall we begin? The first place we get to explore is, of course, Bob-omb Battlefield. Everyone knows about Bob-omb Battlefield. It's as iconic as cannibalism on the internet. It's a great introduction to the game. It's not particularly challenging, and the first star is pretty straightforward. Just need to climb the mountain and kill the king of the Bob-ombs by picking him up and throwing him flat on his bum. Oh yeah, and also, this stage introduces these little areas that, when stood in, Mario just teleports somewhere else.
It's okay, I just teleported over there.
Next up is Whomp's Fortress, so the first star involves you climbing up the fortress and killing the King Whomp on top of it. Wait, hang on a second. Why the hell am I doing this again? Nah, I'm kidding, this fight's pretty different, because this time, instead of picking up the boss only to throw it back down again, you wait for King Whomp to throw himself on the floor, only to crush him with the force of Mario's polygonal anus, which is something I never thought I'd ever say out loud. Then of course there's Jolly Roger Bay, aka Nightmare Fuel for 8-year-old me, the level.
Ooh, very scary.
Cool Mountain, this level's pretty decent. Nice and big, plenty of places to slide, and there's even a racing mission with a penguin, which is always fun to do. You can also kill a child. Toast! Finally, we've reached our first Bowser encounter, and I don't know what's weirder, the fact that Bowser's face looks like he's been stung by a wasp, or the fact that you defeat him by grabbing him by the tail and throwing him face first into spiky bombs. Bye-bye! Wait a second. Bye! They got rid of it.
So long, Bowser!
I'm livid. Anyway, so after you defeat Bowser, you get a key to the basement of the castle. To be honest, most of them aren't particularly interesting. You've just got your desert level with lots of quicksand, and your lava level with lots of, well, hazard yourself a guess. But hey, looking on the bright side, at least there's always Hazy Maze Cave. Yeah, I was never a fan of this level. It's ambitious, don't get me wrong, with its branching paths and multiple floors. Hell, it's even the level you unlock the Metal Mario power-up. Oh yeah, by the way, this game has power-ups, being the wing cap, metal cap, and invisibility cap. The wing cap letting you fly through each stage, the metal cap making you invincible, and the invisible cap lets you phase through certain objects and grates. How did I forget to mention these? One of them is literally on the box. Anyway, where was I? Oh yeah, not a fan of Hazy Maze Cave. And of course, out in the courtyard, you can find Big Boo's haunt. And yep, you can tell just by looking at it, it's a haunted house full of puzzles, traps, and boos that taunt you whenever you kill one. Oh yeah, and also, this level contains a scene so horrifically scary, so terrifyingly unexpected, that it has gone down in history as one of the scariest moments in all of video games. Yeah, that's right. We're going there. We're talking about the piano. Ah! And then after another water level, Dire Docks, probably the blandest level in the game, so I'm not even going to talk about it, we find Bowser once again, and his fight is note for note exactly the same as last time. Except now he just tips the stage a little bit at the beginning. That's it. But either way, I can still do a sick victory dance afterwards. And after this fight, we start to climb the castle, heading up to the upper floor next to, well, follow Bowser, who's headed up to the top of the tower, apparently. Most of these levels, most of them, are actually pretty good. We start off with Snowman's Land, another pretty decent snow level, but this time, as the name would probably suggest, it has a huge snowman that'll blow you away if you don't take cover in time. There's also Wet Dry World, an abandoned sunken town with adjustable water levels, and these little wind-up robot things that when you step on them, you get... Next up is Tall Mountain. This game has an obsession with mountains, doesn't it? Either way, it's still a pretty decent time. It's got these giant mushrooms for some platforming to gather red coins. It's even got a secret slide section. Can't go wrong. There's also Tiny Huge Island. God, this place is weird. As the name would probably suggest, this stage lets you change Mario's size to access certain paths and solve certain puzzles. This level's great because being certain sizes has its own pros and cons. Being huge lets you cover massive ground quickly, and enemies are a joke, but your movement through smaller cracks are limited. And being tiny makes it so you can fit into smaller crevices and walls, but enemies are a bit tougher to deal with. So after all this, you make your way up to the tower for the last 2 levels of this game. One of them, it's pretty damn good. And the other one, it's probably one of the worst Mario levels I've ever played. Tick-tock clock is a pretty good time. The whole level takes place inside of a giant clock, and you need to make your way through by jumping on all of its cogs and hands and whatever else a clock has. It's great and all, but what is with all this fog? I mean, some people say it's the render distance on the N64, but that can't be right, because this level is really narrow. There are much wider stages than this. I don't know what it is. It didn't really hinder my enjoyment at all, but it just makes the stage look a bit ugly compared to the others. It's really strange. Alright, I have to get her at some point. Rainbow Ride, the final major level of this game. This place is huge, to say the least, and it's got to be the most expansive level in this game by a long shot. But the thing is, you don't really get to explore this place very much. You spend most of your time on these on-rail sections on flying carpets, only getting off to do a couple of other platforming challenges that sort of feel thrown together randomly in my books. I get that they were probably made to test your skills from the journey you've just had. In fact, there's this really long wall jumping section in this level, which is so easy to mess up if you don't know what you're doing.
I'm going to fly for you.
I mean, I 100%ed this game for this video, collecting all 120 power stars. I've done it hundreds of times before, and I had no problem with doing it again. Granted, it'll probably be the reason this video comes out a bit late. This is always the level I dread going back to. I never find myself enjoying being here, but it's the last level in the game, so I can take it on the chin. And finally, after one final gauntlet, which involves... Wait, hang on a minute, how the hell are you doing that? We finally meet up with Bowser for one final showdown. Hello! And then, surprise, surprise, it's exactly the same as the other two. Only now the stage slowly collapses as the fight goes on, and Bowser has kind of a rainbow thing going on, so now it takes 3 bombs to take him down instead of 1. I guess you could call that an attempt at a difficulty spike, but he's still horrifically easy, so it doesn't really make that much difference. But after the fight, Bowser is defeated, and the princess is finally saved. Not that that's saying much at this point, this is like the millionth time this has happened. And seeing as I got all 120 power stars, I get a sparkly triple jump. Okay. And I'm now able to shoot up to the roof of the castle where I can find a wing cap power-up and a Yoshi who will talk to me. Mario, it that really you?
Wait, what the f?
You know what? I'm bored of all this wood. I'm gonna go outside.
Right, okay, right. I've had enough of this. I'm just gonna go outside and enjoy some great British sunny weather. Oh yeah. It's winter. In England. Is there a game where I can enjoy the sunny weather instead? Super Mario Sunshine, a GameCube game released in 2002 which takes everyone's favourite portly plumber out to the Mushroom Kingdom and plonks him down in a whole new world to explore. This game, to say the least, is one of the weirder Mario games out there, and in more ways than just one. It essentially takes everything you know about 3D Mario at this point, especially from games like Mario 64, and completely flips it upside its own rectum with new mechanics, gameplay styles, and for one of the first times in Mario history, a sort of fleshed out story with actual cutscenes and a plot that doesn't just say, Bowser has the princess, go after him. So that's pretty decent, I guess. So then, I guess we're going to be playing it today. So that being said, you alright lads, Dan here, welcome back. Hopefully you all had an amazing Christmas. Today we are, well, we're back at it again with the very creatively named Mario-thon, where we take a look at the Super Mario 3D All-Stars collection. Well, because it's Mario's 35th anniversary, but it won't be for very long, so let's get this video out. So yeah, today we're going to be checking out Super Mario Sunshine on this collection, and this is actually the only game on this collection I've never played previous to making this video, obviously. And after all the stuff I've heard about it, I was pretty excited. So, well, I mean, I guess we should just stop dawdling and jump straight in, shall we? The game starts with Mario, the Princess Toadsworth, and a few toads flying off to Al Delfino for a nice holiday. And whilst on the plane, they watch a little introduction video which involves... Wait, is that... Nah, can't be. Eventually they land in Al Delfino, which for whatever reason is covered with this strange paint slime stuff. So for whatever reason, I guess it's up to Mario to go and find this sentient water pump named Flood to get rid of it all. Oh yeah, I should probably mention that everyone, and I mean everyone in this game, is fully voice acted. It's just really weird, man. I don't know any other way to describe it. Mario himself was even meant to have a few full voice lines as well, but decided just to stick to making him shriek at the top of his lungs whenever he jumps instead. And you know what? I'm totally fine with that.
Look like Mario's gonna have to find a job.
Okay, you know what? The voice acting in this game, it is a bit weird, isn't it? But I mean, when Bowser comes in later on in this game, I mean, this is a Mario game after all, it's only inevitable. At least he doesn't speak.
The water's great, hey, Junior?
Ah, bloody hell. Well, I don't see how things could get any weirder. What? The residents of Al Delfino have had issues with this paint stuff all over the place for a little while, and even though he clearly just got here, not even 5 minutes ago, they seem to think that Mario is the one behind it. So yeah, Mario literally gets arrested and placed on trial. Bit heavy for a Nintendo game, that bloody hell. This is when we learn of a mysterious doppelganger who looks just like the Big M. He is obviously the one behind all of this. Mario was just caught in the crossfire, and the judge's final ruling is that until all of the paint is cleared and all of the island's guardians of light, the shine sprites, are returned, Mario is legally not allowed to go home. So now, equipped with the Flood Pack, Mario now needs to explore Al Delfino, clean up all of the paint, collect the shine sprites, fix the locals' problems, and find out just who this doppelganger is and why he's trying to incriminate Mario. To put it basically, this game is essentially revolving around Mario doing community service, which will never not be weird to me. And I know, that's a word you've heard quite a lot in this video. This game is very weird. Mario's moveset in this game is basically the same as in Mario 64, with the triple jump, dive, backwards somersault, and, well, all that. But this time, a few of his moves had to be cut out entirely, those being the punch, the long jump, and the ability to crouch in general. Most of these were removed in favor of brand new flood mechanics. So yeah, you can use the flood pack to squirt water, to clear up the paint and attack certain enemies. There are even multiple nozzles for the pack as well, like the hover nozzle, which lets you, hover over certain gaps while squirting water downwards, and there's the rocket nozzle which blasts you upwards, and the turbo nozzle which blasts you forward at great speeds, letting you cover a lot of distance and even
and run on water. And later on, you can even ride a Yoshi and have it promptly chuck up over everything instead of using FLUDD. That's always fun to do. So then, throughout this game, you'll visit many different locations from beaches, theme parks, and villages. 8 different locations in total, with 8 different missions, or episodes, as this game calls them, in each. And most of the episodes revolve around the same thing. You start by solving someone's problems, eventually leading to you beating some form of boss. And then it leads to just you doing some red coin challenges, or even chasing down your doppelganger, Shadow Mario. You don't even really catch him, you just kind of squirt him with water until he keels over and disappears, which is just, okay, sure. And some of the episodes make you look around for a cave, door, or some other abnormality in the stage, which will teleport you to a secret platforming challenge where you don't have FLUDD at all to help you out. So you just need to rely on Mario's vanilla moves to reach the Shine Sprite at the end. Oh yeah, and also, the music for this section is, it's so good. It's just an a cappella remix of the original Mario theme. I have no idea who came up with the idea for this, but oh my god, it slaps. Oh yeah, and also there are these races with this guy over here, Il Piantissimo, who definitely isn't the running man from Ocarina of Time. No! That would be stupid. And I mean, they're easy enough if you know what you're doing and you have a good lay of the land. I mean, but, you know, they're a fun little challenge. Most of the mechanics you can find in this game, you know, the gameplay, the moveset, the hub world, basically everything like that. It's pretty on par with what you'd expect from a normal 3D Mario Collectathon, and it's pretty damn good if I'm honest. But there's one thing that kind of brings it all down a bit in my opinion, and that is the 240 hidden blue coins. Oh god. They're probably one of the worst collectibles in any collectathon I've ever played. Alright, so these blue coins can be found all over the place, and you can find them in a couple of different ways, from getting rid of any red graffiti on any walls and floors, or you can just find them lying around, some hidden away, and the rest are in plain sight. I mean, it doesn't seem so bad on paper now, does it? Well, no. This game gives you little to no tally on the blue coins you may have collected. You need to know exactly where you found each coin or go for them all straight away, because if you don't, it's going to be an utter slog to come back to them later. I came into this game knowing just how difficult this was going to be, so I went for as many as I could on my first run, and then I went back just before the final boss to get the rest of them, which I might have missed. Now, these coins can be exchanged for shine sprites, 10 coins for 1 shine. Seems simple enough, but if you want advice for a nearly 20-year-old game, don't exchange your coins for any shines until you have them all, because once you exchange them, you lose them. Wait until you have all 240 before you start cashing them in. Trust me, it's an optional thing for 100% completion. If you want to put yourself to it, then go right ahead. I personally wouldn't recommend it. Eventually, we chase down Shadow Mario and confront him in the theme park, where it's revealed that he is in fact Bowser Jr. in disguise, because this is a Mario game, why wouldn't it be?
Mama Peach, I'm your mama?
I mean, it's a pretty simple question. Are you his mother or are you not? If you are, I think you would know. And also, the fact that she's questioning this means that, at some point, Princess Peach went down on this, and I don't know whether to feel disgusted or suicidal. That's probably why she's always in another castle. Junior then swipes Peach, even though she clearly had seconds to jump out of the mech. She wasn't tied down to anything, and they fly away to a volcano off in the distance.
It appears to be heading toward mountain.
Yeah, sorry, FLUDD, we're not allowed to say that on YouTube anymore. So yeah, instead of heading straight there, because we clearly know that's where Bowser's hiding out, and obviously he's the one who's been incriminating Mario and is the reason this whole Shine Sprite thing is happening in the first place, no, we just carry on as we were, as if we didn't see anything, because, yeah, alright. Oh yeah, that makes perfect sense. Right, okay, can I just get this out of the way real quick before we get into any specifics about the ending portion of this game? The final level of this game. Oh my god, it's awful. So after an admittedly decent platforming section over spikes and fire plates, this level mostly involves you needing to pilot a boat over lava using FLUDD to control where the boat goes. You do end up using this boat in a couple of earlier levels to kind of get a feel for it. I hated it then, and I hate it even more now, because you're floating on lava, remember, and touching anything will make the boat sink, and you can only imagine what that ends up like. And also, if you look carefully, you can see that the lava kind of has water particles coming off it, so it probably isn't even that. It could be bloody Sunny D for all I care. I wouldn't mind, but what makes this 10 times harder is the fact that there are a load of blue coins in this level, and they're all huddled together near the end, making you need to be even more careful if you want to go for them. But eventually, after all this, we find Bowser on the top of the the mountain and we get to fight him.
Mario! How dare you disturb my family vacation?
Well, I say fight him, but it's more destroy these little prongs on the side of the hot tub he's sitting in. It's really not that much of a fight. You just run around, hit the weak spots on the side of the tub while avoiding fire and rockets. It's kind of disappointing, to be honest. But after this, the entire tub is destroyed and everyone falls back to the beaches below. But yeah, nothing particularly happens in this ending, to be blatantly honest with you. I mean, Flood dies, that's something. I guess they were trying to do some form of plot twist here, but he literally comes back less than 30 seconds later and he's totally fine, and then the credits roll. Okay. So then, what do I end up getting for collecting all the shine sprites? I got every single one. I collected all the blue coins. To the victor go the spoils, as literally no one ever says. What do I win? You're having a laugh, aren't you? A still image. A still image that doesn't even fill up the entire screen. That is what you get for 100% completion. Oh yeah, and also if you talk to this one bloke, you can actually get a new costume for Mario, which is actually a Hawaiian shirt and glasses. And the glasses actually work. You know what? I like this. Well done, game. I'm gonna let you off the hook. Oh yeah, Mario looks ready to shout at his wife in public. Oh. Right then, time to finish what we started and leave 2020 in the mud where it belongs. 4 months into 2021. Shut up. So then, let's take a trip back to 2007 and we're jumping ship once again to the Wii. So, with brand new hardware comes brand new hardware. But alongside that, the Wii also brought brand new Mario titles to the table, and it was seeping, positively seeping, with new games starring everyone's favourite paisano, whether that be in his own series or someone else's. Why is there so many? But the game in question we're going to be talking about today is going to be Super Mario Galaxy, a game which was so good and so well received, it ended up getting a sequel in 2010, making this, to my knowledge at least, the only 3D Mario game to get an actual titled sequel. But of course, Galaxy 2 isn't on the 3D All-Stars collection, so I'm not going to go into too much detail about that until like a future video or something. Bloody hell. The PAL version of Galaxy 2 actually comes with a separate DVD in the box, which goes in depth on how to play the game. This thing could be a video in itself, seriously.
To play Super Mario Galaxy 2, you'll need a Wii remote.
Oh. That's what I've been doing wrong. So yeah, anyway, you're right lads, Dan here. Welcome back to the Mario-thon, the only show on the internet which says, hello, how are you? So today we're going to be talking about Super Mario Galaxy, the third and final game on the 3D All-Stars collection. Took me long enough, didn't it? Hope the wait was worth it. Let's begin. Oh yeah. We are in for a treat today, boys. So the game starts off with the princess inviting Mario for cake. Wait a second, I feel like I've heard this one before. Alright then, so, new game, new ideas, what we got? Listen, dude, just do another Mario 64. He gets invited for cake. He goes to get the cake. It's not there. Big adventure. Happy days. It's worked hundreds of times before, and it'll work now. People eat this stuff up. Well, I mean, yeah, I guess we could do that again, but I don't know. What's so different about this one? It's in space. So, Mario is on his way to get his gloved hands on the cake. Honestly, mate, just give up. It never happens. And, oh, shove me off the Empire State and call me Shirley. Bowser turns up. Could never have seen that one coming. But instead of nabbing the princess and calling it a day, he just takes the entire castle with everyone in it and buggers off into space, you know, as you do. Mario tries to fight back, but he gets flung out into orbit. Poor twat just can't seem to catch a break, can he? He ends up landing on a rock in the middle of space where he meets these star things called Lumas and their guardian Rosalina, who offers to help Mario pursue Bowser if he helps gather power stars and grand stars to power her observatory. To do this, he needs to explore many different clusters of planets, or galaxies, as this game calls them, to find the stars by solving puzzles, beating platforming challenges, or doing little mini-games for some of the inhabitants of the galaxies to collect enough stars to chase down Bowser. Mario, mate, just leave it. If it's cake you're after, just go to Greg's. For God's sake, she's not worth your time. The control in this game feels somewhat slower paced in my opinion compared to the other games in this collection, but that's to be expected because just look at it. Most of this game revolves around gravity, you know, switching itself inside and out quite a lot of the time. Anti-gravity and gravity flipping in games isn't usually done very well. It can feel kind of forced, but I'll be damned. This game does it really bloody well. The controls complement the anti-gravity parts of the stages perfectly and doesn't screw itself up if you do so much as stick your toe on a slanted ledge. And Mario's still got his standard moveset, you know, triple jump, long jump, all that. I really don't need to say that by now. But now he has a special spin move you can use to adjust yourself in the air slightly, break crystals, and attack enemies. Oh yeah, and also if you use this move when you touch these giant stars, you... Right, so this was originally a Wii game, so there are going to be tons of motion controls everywhere, and you know what? Surprisingly enough, most of them work pretty decently with the Switch's controls. More specifically, the gyro aiming for the cursor that's always on screen. It works perfectly. To name another example, there's this manta ray you can use as a surfboard in a couple of time trial races. Speaking of which, one time when I was doing a challenge for some penguin geezer, I was able to beat the required time to get the star, but the thing is, the game stops you as soon as you go over the finish line, which, you know, should be pretty bog standard, but it keeps any momentum you've built up rolling. So I ended up careening into a wall, flying off the stage, and dying as soon as the clock stopped, so I couldn't get the star and had to do it all over again. But the thing is, the game still saved my time from the last run. You know what that means? Okay. You got me, alright? I have had to nitpick with this game, but to be honest, in order to find any forms of negatives whatsoever, that's what I've had to do. This is why people think this game is one of the best on the Wii. Apart from a couple of issues with motion controls, this game is fantastic. So let's just keep chugging along on high and talk about some power-ups, shall we? Let's go. So one of the first ones you get turns Mario into a bee, because why not? It's Nintendo, the sky's the bloody limit. This suit lets you fly around briefly, land on certain platforms, and climb up honeycomb walls. The Boo Mushroom turns Mario into a ghost, technically meaning Mario dies for the sake of a power-up. Right then. In this form, you can hover around, phase through gates, and you can even terrorize Luigi. What's not to love? The classic Fire Mario returns in this game, but it works a bit differently than we've all come to expect, mostly because he has a 20-second time limit before completely disappearing. No idea why they decided to do that, but whatever. But on the opposite side, though, this game introduces one of the Ice Mario forms. I mean, yeah, this is basically the same as Fire Mario, but with ice and skating. Okay, there's your standard invincibility, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And a brand new red star, which turns Mario into a crappy DeviantArt recolor OC. Jokes aside, this one is pretty cool though, because it lets you fly around freely. I mean, it's definitely the most fun power-up in the game. And this one is the worst! What? The spring mushroom essentially just wraps Mario in a spring, which makes you jump higher. That's it. That is literally it. You can't even move around normally with this thing. You just kind of bounce and bound all over the place. I mean, sure, you can get used to it with some practice, but it's proper finicky at the end of the day, and it's just so damn forgettable. I'll move on now. Don't care doing it. So something you probably realized in this marathon is that not only am I talking about these games in kind of a casual point of view, you know, just playing it casually, you know, I'm also talking about what you get for 100%ing each of these games. And I will stand by that. I'll do it for this game. So for this game... Christ. Right, okay, so don't get me wrong, this game is basically on par with the others when it comes to completion. The main game has 120 stars to collect. Most of them are found just by getting from point A to point B. This game is a lot more linear than the other games in this collection. I would not call any levels particularly open-ended. The others can be found through optional unlockable levels you can get from feeding these creatures, starbits, one of the main common collectibles apart from coins of course. Feed them enough and they bugger off into space and turn into a level to play on. And also, occasionally these special comets will fly over certain levels, giving you access to a special challenge while you replay an older level. Things like time limits, limited health, purple coin challenges, or even the opportunity to race up cloning yourself to the finish. All of this is well and good and all, and I would have been perfectly willing to go through all of this for the sake of this video, so I did. I started going through all this in my free time, barring a few technical difficulties and a few unrelated things happening in my life outside of YouTube. I started preparing for this video and recording gameplay back in February. And after a while, I did come pretty close to that 100% goal. Admittedly, after a bit, I got a little bit curious, so I looked online to see what would happen afterwards. So, what is your reward for full 100% completion? I'll give you a few seconds to have a guess. Did you get a sparkly triple jump and a typoed message from Yoshi? A stupid still image that literally means nothing? No! You get to play through the entire game again as Luigi. Luigi! Okay, fair enough. Compared to some of the other games I've talked about, this ain't a bad trade-off, right? Well, no! There's actually one final extra level you can unlock. But in order to unlock it, you need to 100% this game, not once, twice. Once as Mario, and once as Luigi. No! And when I found this out, I came to the conclusion that one 100% run, totally fine. I'll just do that. And Luigi, well, Luigi can go f himself. So, after you gather enough power stars, we can finally travel to the center of the universe where we find, well, who else? Bowser.
Good evening.
And I think you can see where this is going. We fight him and we win.
Yeah, I know. Don't act so surprised.
After beating Bowser, we took the final grand star that was powering a generator inside of a literal star. The generator is destroyed, thus making the star explode. And you know what happens when stars explode? Well, do you?
What? Black hole?
Exactly! A black hole appears, everyone and a nan gets sucked into it, and everybody dies. And after that, the Big Bang happens again. Okay, everyone is dead. I refuse to be told otherwise. The universe gets reset, and everyone wakes up back on Earth. Somehow. And of course, it all ends with Mario having a reasonable reaction to what in the hell just happened over the last 3.5 minutes.
The end.
So yeah, that was Super Mario Galaxy, and well, the end of the 3D All-Stars collection, and the end of Mario-thon. I know, it's really sad and everything. And I can only apologize it took me this long to get the whole thing done, and, wait. What month's it again? Hang on, let me have a look. Oh god, no. Hang on. No. So that means... it's time for you to go, old friend. Sayonara, Super Mario. And then the scalpers came back! Yeah!